Kent may be the Garden of England, but its villages, castles, and taverns hide chilling tales. Join us as we uncover 10 haunted places where history and legend still walk in the shadows. The Black Horse, in the quiet Kentish village of Pluckley, often whispered of as the most haunted in Britain, stands an inn whose very timbers seem steeped in dread. The Black Horse, with its low beams and flickering hearth, greets the traveler with warmth by day. But when the evening settles and the streets grow, still shadows here are said to stir with a will of their own. The inn has served ale for centuries, its walls listening to gossip quarrels and secrets. Yet alongside its history runs another tale, one that locals tell with lowered voices. It is said that coats left casually on chairs will be found neatly hung by the door, as if an unseen host insists upon order. Glasses slide across the table with no hand to guide them. And more than one visitor has felt the prickling awareness that someone stands close behind, only to find the room empty when they turn. One former cleaner confessed she could never again work alone in the dining room. As she bent to polish the floor, she felt a sudden pressure upon her arm, unmistakably human. She fled trembling, leaving her bucket and cloth where they fell. Others have spoken of footsteps racing along the corridor above, though the upper rooms lay locked and deserted. On stormy nights, the fire itself has revealed strange visions, a pair of eyes wide and unblinking, staring from the heart of the flames until the wood collapsed and the image was gone. To the weary traveler, the Black Horse may appear to be a haven from the dark lanes of Pluckley, yet those who have lingered after closing speak of a different truth. The inn seems to breathe when no one is watching its rafters, groaning its silence thick with unseen company. Some leave laughing at village folklore, but others carry away a lingering unease, as though the eyes from the fireplace still follow them into the night. The Black Horse remains both a place of cheer and a place of chilling uncertainty. It reminds us that even in the heart of hospitality, the veil between the living and the unseen can grow very thin indeed. Chartwell, amid the rolling hills of Kent, sheltered by trees and gardens, lies Chartwell, once the beloved home of Sir Winston Churchill. By day, it is a museum, filled with sunlight paintings and the echoes of history. Yet when the sun falls low, visitors speak of a different presence, one that does not belong to the living. Churchill himself adored this estate, retreating here during the darkest years of war, to paint, to write, and to think. His garden studio still stands preserved, as though he might return at any moment. But many insist he never truly left. It is within those walls where canvas and easel still wait that shadows gather. Some describe a heaviness in the air, an oppressive silence that grows until even the ticking of a clock feels deafening. There are whispers of cigar smoke drifting through empty rooms, its rich aroma suddenly sharp, as though the great man had only just stepped outside. Others have heard the steady tread of footsteps across the boards above, even when the upper floor was locked. A member of staff once admitted to pausing at the threshold, feeling as though eyes were fixed upon him from the darkened corner of the studio. He could not enter, and from that day onward, refused to be alone there after dusk. The more skeptical dismiss such tales as imagination, fed by legend. Yet the stories persist, repeating year after year, as if bound to the house as firmly as ivy to its walls. Visitors come to pay tribute to a statesman, but leave with a strange conviction that he lingers still, perhaps unwilling to part from the place where he found peace, perhaps drawn back by the weight of decisions that changed the world. Chartwell stands today as both heritage and haunting, a monument to leadership and a reminder that even the most powerful figures may leave echoes behind. Whether spirit or memory, the presence felt here adds another layer to the history of a house already written into Britain's destiny. Minster Abbey Gatehouse Museum, upon the windswept Isle of Sheppey, where the sea air carries the tang of salt and the cries of distant gulls, stands the Minster Abbey Gatehouse. Its stone archways and weathered walls seem almost timeless, holding centuries of history within their frame. By day, it welcomes visitors as a museum, a relic of Saxon devotion and Norman endurance. But when the light fades and the lanes fall silent, something else is said to walk here. The figure is known simply as the Grey Lady, though some call her the White Lady. Cloaked in pale garments, she has been seen drifting across the road, her head bowed, her steps soundless. She moves toward the church path as though retracing a journey that has no end. Witnesses speak of her dissolving into the dusk just as suddenly as she appeared. To some, she is a nun from the Abbey's earliest days, condemned to wander forever. To others, she is a sorrowful bride, her wedding long lost to tragedy. One visitor, pausing near the gatehouse arch, later confessed to hearing a voice close to his ear. It was a woman's voice, hushed yet unmistakable, speaking words he could not comprehend. He turned swiftly, but there was only emptiness, the heavy stones looming above him. For the rest of his tour, he refused to lag behind the group, certain that someone unseen had chosen to walk at his side. The gatehouse seems to breathe with these tales. Even those who never glimpse the phantom admit to an odd stillness in the air, as though the building itself is listening. The narrow stairways echo with sounds that have no source, and the dim corridors feel colder than the day outside. Minster Abbey Gatehouse remains a place of heritage, a museum for the curious, but also a stage for a legend that refuses to fade. To stand beneath its arch at twilight is to feel history and haunting entwined, reminding all who pass that time may move forward, but some spirits remain. Ightham Mote, hidden deep within a wooded valley of Kent, lies Ightham Mote, a medieval manor surrounded by a still dark moat. Its timbered walls and stone towers have stood for more than 7 centuries, sheltering knights, nobles, and servants. By daylight, it is a jewel of history, a picture of tranquility. But as dusk falls, the moat becomes a mirror of shadows, and whispers tell of tragedies that refuse to rest. One tale speaks of Dame Dorothy Selby, remembered for her part in betraying the gunpowder plot of 1605. Legend insists that in revenge, conspirators walled her up alive within the house. Visitors to the tower chamber speak of a chill that cannot be explained by draughts or winter air, an unearthly cold that seeps into the bones. They say it is her sorrow pressing upon the living, a punishment that lingers still. Another story haunts the old servant quarters. A young maid accused of a forbidden affair with a priest is said to have met a darker fate. The priest, disgraced and broken, ended his own life. Her master, Sir Thomas Brown, consumed by rage, is believed to have murdered the girl and sealed her within the walls. Since then, faint sobs and muffled cries have been reported echoing softly along the corridors where no one stands. A guest once described entering a chamber where the air turned so bitterly cold that his breath plumed before him, though outside it was a summer's evening. He left abruptly, refusing to return. Another visitor, wandering near the moat, spoke of seeing a woman's reflection in the water beside his own, though no one stood upon the bank. Ightham Mote wears its beauty proudly, but beneath the surface lies a darker legacy. Whether it is vengeance, despair, or guilt that stirs within its walls, the house seems unable to shrug off the weight of its past. Those who cross the drawbridge after dark find themselves wondering not only who once lived here, but who still remains unseen. Eastwell Manor. In the countryside near Ashford stands Eastwell Manor, a grand house of turrets and gables where noble families once dined and danced. Today it presents itself as a place of elegance, a retreat amid sweeping lawns. Yet when the corridors grow quiet and the staircases fall into shadow, the manor reveals a presence that cannot be explained by history alone. For centuries, tales have been told of a lady in white who haunts the upper floors. She is described as tall, with long black hair falling across her shoulders, her face hidden in shade. She drifts at the head of the staircase, sometimes pausing as though to glance down before vanishing after a few paces. Guests who encounter her speak of an unnatural silence that grips the house in those moments as though time itself falters. The hauntings are not limited to a single apparition. Strange noises echo through the halls, a heavy clunking sound that moves from room to room, footsteps pacing where no one walks, and sudden thuds from beneath the floor as though something unseen stirs beneath the foundations. One guest described the sensation of energy rising up through his body, leaving him shaken and drained. Even the mirrors here do not offer safety. In the bar area, a man once glanced into the glass and saw behind him a woman in a white gown. Her eyes were fixed upon him, her face blurred, as if hidden by mist. When he turned, the room was empty, the reflection gone. Others have spoken of radios switching on and off by themselves, their voices crackling out into the night. Beyond the house, further stories take form. Some recall a spectral coach and horses seen charging up the drive before swerving suddenly into the lake. Whether this is memory legend or imagination, no one can say, but it lingers in local folklore, a phantom echo of past grandeur. By daylight, Eastwell Manor remains a jewel of Kentish heritage. But at night, when the lamps burn low and silence creeps across its long corridors, the house belongs not to the living, but to shadows. To stay here is to wonder if every step, every sound, and every glance into the dark is shared with someone unseen. Chiddingstone Castle. In the heart of the Kent countryside rises Chiddingstone Castle, a stately red brick building that has stood for centuries, its towers gazing out across meadows and wooded lanes. By day, it is a museum filled with collections of art and relics from across the world. Yet as the sun sets and the last visitors leave, a different collection is said to emerge, shadows and whispers that belong not to history books, but to legend. The most enduring tale speaks of a woman in a tricorn hat, seen riding horseback along the lanes that wind toward the castle. She is often glimpsed at dusk, her figure sharply outlined against the fading light. Riders who meet her say she does not slow, does not speak, but continues at a steady canter until she reaches the gates. There, she vanishes into the gloom horse and all, leaving only silence behind. Some believe she was once a mistress of the castle, others that she is a restless spirit tied to an older tragedy on these roads. One walker recalled the sound of hooves clattering suddenly on the lane beside him, though no horse was visible. The echo grew louder, drawing close, until he felt a rush of air, as if something unseen had passed. When he looked up, the road was deserted, and yet the castle gates loomed ahead, their ironwork glistening as though freshly disturbed. The castle itself carries its own weight of atmosphere. Long galleries echo with footsteps that fade before they are seen. Doors creak open without cause, and visitors report a sensation of being observed from the upper windows, though no figure appears. The collections within, samurai armor, Egyptian relics, rare manuscripts, only add to the feeling that the building holds more than one kind of mystery. By daylight, Chiddingstone Castle is a treasure house of culture and heritage. By night, it belongs to the rider in the tricorn hat, who still makes her spectral journey through the quiet Kentish lanes. To stand at the gates as darkness deepens is to feel that you are not alone, and that at any moment the sound of hooves may come again from the shadows. Tunbridge Wells Hospital. Hospitals are places of birth, of healing, and of passing, and where life and death are so closely entwined, it is little wonder that spirits are said to linger. On the edge of Pembury stands Tunbridge Wells Hospital, a modern building in appearance, yet one burdened by tales of more than 25 restless ghosts. The site itself has a long history of care. Generations of patients and staff have walked these corridors, their stories etched into the walls. But within this place of medicine, there are darker accounts whispered among nurses and porters. They speak of shadowy figures appearing at the ends of long wards, vanishing when approached, of call bells ringing in empty rooms, of doors that refuse to stay closed opening slowly as though pushed by an unseen hand. The most unusual tale is of a horse. Long ago, when the grounds were different, a man was said to have died here after his horse reared and struck him. To this day, on quiet nights, the sound of hooves has been reported echoing across the tarmac and through the lower corridors. More than one staff member has paused in fear at the sound of neighing sharp and sudden where no stable has stood for decades. One nurse recalled leaving a ward after midnight when she felt the unmistakable sensation of someone brushing past her shoulder. The corridor was deserted, yet she caught the faint smell of antiseptic mixed with tobacco, as though an older generation of medic still lingered at his post. Another worker admitted that she would never again take the lift alone, after seeing a man step inside beside her only to vanish when the doors opened. By day, Tunbridge Wells Hospital is a place of care and order. By night, its atmosphere changes. Silence deepens in the wards, footsteps echo where no one walks, and the hum of machinery seems to take on a life of its own. Whether imagination, shaped by exhaustion, or echoes of the many lives who pass through the effect, remains unsettling. The hospital continues its work, but within its walls, the line between the living and the departed feels perilously thin. For those who serve there, the knowledge that 25 ghosts may keep them company is both chilling and strangely fitting. Allington Castle, hidden beside the River Medway, surrounded by high walls and a broad moat, stands Allington Castle. To the visitor, it seems serene, a place of gardens, turrets, and gentle water. Yet behind its beauty lies a story, far darker one, that still stirs whispers among those who pass through its gates. The tale centers on a young maid who centuries ago bore a child out of wedlock. In desperation and shame, she drowned her infant in the waters of the moat. When her crime was discovered, she was condemned and hanged. But death did not bring an end to her torment. Locals claim her restless spirit still roams the castle grounds, bound forever to the site of her despair. She is most often seen near Solomon's Tower or in the garden of the King's Tower. Witnesses speak of a pale figure, bent low, her face twisted in grief. At times, she drifts silently across the lawns, her white form dissolving into the night air. At other times, the sounds of sobbing are heard close by, though no one can be found. A visitor once described pausing on the staircase inside the tower when the sound of footsteps rose behind him. The tread was deliberate, measured, climbing steadily. Yet when he turned, the stairs were empty. The sound continued, reaching the landing above, until fading into silence. Others have reported chills in the same place, the air suddenly turning bitter cold, as though the past had returned for just a moment. Today, Allington Castle is often seen as a place of peace, its gardens tranquil, its moat reflecting the sky. Yet for those who know its history, the water still carries a memory of sorrow. The castle may appear welcoming, but in its stones lie traces of despair that time cannot wash away. By day, the swans glide calmly across the moat. By night, the silence deepens, and the faint echo of footsteps or the glimpse of a grieving figure remind us that beauty and tragedy often walk together. In Allington Castle, the past has not been entirely laid to rest. St. John the Baptist Church, in the quiet village of Barham, where narrow lanes wind between hedgerows and fields, stands the ancient church of St. John the Baptist. Its tower rises solemnly above the churchyard, its bells marking the passage of time as they have for centuries. By daylight, it is a place of prayer and peace. But as the light fades, another presence is said to emerge among the gravestones. The phantom most often spoken of here is a lady who wanders the churchyard after dusk. Clad in shadow, she glides silently between the moss-covered stones, her form pale against the darkness. Some describe her as a grieving mother, others as a bride whose wedding ended in tragedy. She never speaks, never turns her head, but drifts endlessly as though searching for something she cannot find. One parishioner, hurrying past the gate one autumn evening, admitted to catching sight of her by the yew trees. The figure was still watching, though her face could not be seen. Overcome by dread, he lowered his eyes and walked swiftly on. Later, he confessed that he could not shake the feeling that she had followed him, her gaze pressing between his shoulder blades until he reached the safety of his home. The church itself holds its own uneasy atmosphere. Inside, the flicker of candlelight sometimes reveals shapes in the shadows that vanish when approached. The air is heavy, as though charged with centuries of unspoken sorrow. Even clergy have spoken quietly of doors creaking open during solitary vigils, though no hand touched them. To most, St. John, the Baptist Church, is simply a place of worship, its history entwined with the lives of the villagers it has served for generations. But to those who linger after dark, the churchyard becomes something more, a realm of echoes where grief and mystery mingle. Here, among the graves and yew trees, eternity feels close, and the veil between past and present grows thin. The lady who walks the churchyard is not a figure easily dismissed. She is a reminder that faith and fear can share the same ground, and that silence in a place such as this can be more haunting than any spoken word. The Tickled Trout. Beside the slow waters of the River Medway stands the Tickled Trout, a centuries-old inn where oak beams sag with age and the hearth glows warm against the chill outside. To the casual visitor, it is a place of cheer and company, alive with laughter and the clink of glasses. Yet beneath the floorboards in the gloom of its cellar lurks a story far less welcoming. The Tickled Trout has long been tied to strange occurrences. Patrons descending to the cellar have reported an icy coldness, a sudden tightening in the chest, and the unsettling feeling of being watched. Some speak of objects shifting, bottles rattling against their shelves as though disturbed by invisible hands. But the most chilling accounts are of physical contact, hands reaching from the dark, clutching at ankles, tugging at clothes, refusing to let go until the victim scrambles back to the stairs in terror. One guest, asked to fetch a bottle of wine, descended cheerfully with lantern in hand. Halfway across the cellar, he froze, for he felt the firm pressure of a hand upon his shoulder. He spun, expecting to find another behind him, but the shadows were empty. He fled, stumbling up the steps, the lantern swinging wildly. Later, he admitted that for a moment, he had sensed not one figure, but several crowding close around him, their presence heavy in the stale air. Even staff avoid the cellar when they can. One barman confessed that he never lingers there alone. Another refuses outright to descend after dark. For them, the cellar is not merely a storage room, but a place that breathes with something unseen, something that delights in reminding the living of its power. Above ground, the Tickled Trout bustles with life, its riverside setting drawing families and travelers. But in the silence below, echoes of older times stir. Whether the cellar holds memories of smuggling of punishment or of nameless tragedy, none can say for certain. What remains clear is that the inn is haunted not just by stories, but by experiences repeated over and over. To drink at the Tickled Trout is to share in good company. To step into its cellar is to step into something else entirely. A place where shadows reach out and where laughter from above cannot quite chase away the chill of the unseen. Have you visited any of these haunted sites? Tell us below and subscribe to Creepy Experience for more chilling journeys.